It's time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions. Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
Who wants to talk sports on a Thursday? We do, you do. From the DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Center studios in San Diego, we welcome you to our Thursday podcast, Hacksaw's Headlines, as we head towards the great sports weekend. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, along with my co-host, John Riley, and we welcome you to what's going to be a really cool weekend in the world of sports. This podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you in San Diego and the new one in Dana Point up in Orange County. You get projects for 2025. They got materials. You want ideas. They'd be glad to be your best friend and your consultant. Just remember the name DIXIELINE Lumber. John Riley, good afternoon. Holy cow, there's an awful lot out there to talk about. Some good, some bad, games to be previewed. How you doing?
I am doing very well, Lee. We've been scrambling today, but we're here to bring the sports information that fans want.
We are in scramble mode. Just a couple of program notes. If you like this podcast, I want you to share, want you to subscribe. Tell everybody what we do Mondays at 1 p.m., Thursdays at 1 p.m. Share with everybody in your Rolodex, your address book, etc. Want you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. When you do that, you will get the alerts every time we put something up on the YouTube channel, which is quite often. If you like sports, at the top of the screen, that's the address of my website, leehacksawhamilton.com. I write on it every day. If you check it first thing in the morning, you'll know every story there is in the world of sports. You are on social media. I want you to join my Twitter All-Star team on X. Just type in my handle at Hacksaw1090. Follow, because there's an awful lot there. And we want you to tell your friends to join the Twitter All-Star team at Hacksaw1090. And by the way, I want you to join my Insiders Club. We do that. You register, go to my website, fill out the orange box right on the front. You'll get on the email list for special things that we're making available. And when we're done with all the topics on the table, you take over the podcast. It's called Fans Forum. John, describe it.
Fans Forums, your chance to get involved in the world of sports with Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. If you have a question or comment, type it in the live chat on Facebook, X, or YouTube, and we'll get you involved.
He's so kind. In radio verbiage, it would have been, get off your ass and get on the phone. Well, get off your ass and get on into the chat box so you can join us on Fans Forum.
I'm just amazed that when you do the business there at the beginning, at the top of the show, there's so much going on. I mean, the Insiders Group, the website, the podcast, the Fans Forum, it just never ends.
Sure, it's your fault. You created all the social media empire for us.
You are a content creation machine. We just needed to unlock you so you can be everywhere on the airwaves.
And I want all the followers, everybody on live stream. I want you to message everybody and tell them who the hell we are and what we're doing. John, we're going lots of directions. We had a lot of topics on the table. Let's get something rolling here. Otherwise, we'll be here till breakfast on Saturday because there's so much to talk about.
So let's talk a little bit about the Roki Sasaki sweepstakes. Are we getting closer to a decision yet?
Okay. The baseball window opened on the clock. And now the great debate, risk versus reward. Good headline you built there, John. Sasaki can now sign with anybody. As of this hour on a Thursday, he's not yet announced. It's down to 3. It's down to the Padres, the Dodgers, and maybe the Toronto Blue Jays. In the MLB notebook, here's the debate question, John. Item 1, Dodgers versus Padres. How is Roki Sasaki, the 23-year-old Japanese pitching sensation, going to make the decision? What's the most important thing? Is it the history, the legacy of the franchise he chooses? Is it how many times they've been to the World Series? Is it their ability to develop pitchers, their history? Is it their ability to help pitchers who get hurt come back through rehab? Is it a history of their Oriental relationships with other pitchers or other players that have signed from Japan, Korea, Taiwan, the Pacific Rim? Is it strictly about marketplace and endorsement opportunities, bigger market? Is it about past tradition of Japanese players and friends he may have on the current rosters? And is he willing to spend the next 6 years of his career, because once he inks that contract, he's locked for 6 years before he can become a free agent. John, what do you think is the most important thing as it relates to Sasaki?
As far as the Padres getting him, I think you got to hope that he doesn't want the Dodgers, because we're the second team in the pecking order. That's how I see this, is that, yeah, there's some great relationships that AJ has in Japan, the boots on the ground, all that. They've been wooing him for years. But in the end, it has to be a question if he wants to be the third Japanese player in the pecking order with the Dodgers, or if he wants to be a star in a market that's a little bit less media focused, that might give him a more comfortable landing spot in America.
Fascinating. Now, I beg the question here. This is win-win. Nobody's going to lose in this debate. This sounds, I know, would you move over? Because I'm coming to left field with this opinion.
Okay.
This is win-win. If the Dodgers get him, it's a win for them and it's unbelievable rotation. If the Padres get him, it's a win for them because he plugs in immediately and has a long career to begin with in San Diego. Nobody loses, though. If the Dodgers don't get him, does not matter, because the Dodgers have this massive payroll and they have so many really good pitchers, some coming off rehab, but they have a history of developing guys and a history of helping rehab guys get back on the mound. If the Padres lose him, it's less of a hit because they still have Luis Ariz and they still have Dylan Cease that they could use as a trade chip to go get other pitchers, which also helps the Padres with their money in the basket problem they have. So do you think it's win-win regardless of the decision, or do you think somebody loses badly if they don't get Sasaki?
Well, I think the Padres are putting all their eggs in the basket here for Sasaki. I mean, yeah, the Dodgers have got a roster that they're not even going to fit them all in the dugout. There's going to be so many quality players. But for the Padres, if they don't get Sasaki, they're still over the line on the payroll. And if they have to unload Cease and Ariz, it's trouble. The Padres need to have addition, not subtraction.
True, but if they don't get them and they have to move one of those big contracts, Ariz 14 mil, Cease almost 14 mil, they're going to get young pitching to fill out that rotation. Of course, they are creating a hole in a different part of the lineup if they have to move Ariz. I don't think it's a lose-lose. It'd be a great chip if they got him. Fascinating.
Well, it's a disappointment for sure, but you don't know what kind of pitching you're going to get back, in a deal. It might still be like a low A player, and then suddenly we're depending on Johnny Brito to have the caboose of the rotation.
Okay, that's where we are. We're waiting for a decision. Other baseball notebook items. New bidder, Alex Bregman, Houston third baseman, who is leaving. Alex Bregman, however, through his agent, indicated this morning he's not taking a short-term contract. He's not going to do a contract with, quote, opt-outs. His next move will be his final move, might be Fenway Park, might be suddenly Wrigleyville, because the Cubs are expressing interest. It's not going to be a 2-year deal. It's not going to be a 3-year deal from what we gather. He's looking for the 6-year transaction. The next stop will be his final stop in Major League Baseball. So that storyline bears following, because that is very different than what's happening other places. And what's happening other places, a.k.a. Pete Alonso, he's seeking short-term contract. And as of noon today, it looked as if he's gone from the New York Mets and that Bregman is moving to the East Coast. Fascinating to see where this goes. Third team, Milwaukee. Just a bit outside. Cheap seats. I'm in the cheap seats. I thought I'd get to the Hall of Fame as a hitter. You mean they don't call a 200 batting average the Euchre line? Baseball's saying goodbye to one of the great personalities. Bob Uecker has passed away at the age of 90, legendary broadcaster. 200 lifetime batting average with 14 home runs. Bigger post-baseball career than baseball career as a journeyman backup catcher. He passed away after a short fight with lung cancer. Hell of a personality. Not only a great talent, he became a greater broadcaster. He became an icon. That's why there is a statue of him outside that stadium in Milwaukee. Bob Uecker passes away. The stories are unbelievable. I interviewed him a couple of times over the course of my talk show career. Fun guy. And he evolved. He evolved not only as a 200 hitter to become a great broadcaster, not only as a guy that was on Mr. Belvedere on
Yeah.
TV for a couple of
I
years,
remember that.
as ornery and awkward as that could be. He evolved into a sales pitch. The Miller Lite commercials, In the Cheap Seats with George Steinbrenner. I mean, just hilarious stuff. Loved every minute of Major League Baseball. And I bet back in Milwaukee, the people nonstop on Sports Talk Radio are telling story after story after story about the legendary Bob Uecker. Fascinating gentleman, took a back seat to nobody in terms of personality, cared a great deal. Everybody loved Bob Uecker. He has passed away. Really sad note in Baltimore. We talked about this last week, the sudden passing of Brian Mattis, former University of San Diego All-American pitcher, passed away in Phoenix, found in his home deceased. Now we find out he died of a drug overdose. And it's a sad commentary that guys who go through major surgeries and have to deal with post-surgical pain get addicted to painkillers. We believe he passed away from an overdose of fentanyl, something been going on for a couple of years. That's tough. We remember Brian Mattis. I guess the shocker to me is the fact that these guys who have these addictions don't go get help when the professional athlete of today and their medical program coverages is better than the average citizen like you and me sitting at this broadcast table. So we kind of grieve the end story for Brian Mattis. Do you think baseball fan in Northern California will enjoy sitting out for 81 home games for the Athletics in Sacramento? They sold out all 14,000 season tickets in the AAA stadium. The Athletics, not the Sacramento A's, not the Oakland A's, the Athletics are going to play. Could you imagine 81 home games in heat and humidity? Because it is bloody hot in Sacramento in the course of the summer. But baseball fans excited. I sold out all 14,000 seats. So, John, we talked about Sasaki. You can talk about Bregman. You can talk about the cheap seats. And just a bit outside, we'll talk Baltimore A's baseball. Go ahead.
Okay, well, let's talk Bob Uecker. I mean, obviously a great personality, an ambassador of the game in his own fun way. I was introduced to him first by the Miller Lite commercials, and he was like, "Oh, I must be in the front row," you know, and it was just hilarious, you know. And then all of a sudden, I remember he popped up on Mr. Belvedere, and I was like, "What the heck's going on?" You know, when he played, wasn't he like a catcher with the Cardinals, right? And I think is that
Milwaukee
right?
Braves.
The Braves.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I thought that there was a picture of him in a Cardinals team photo holding hands with Bob Gibson.
Anything's possible.
Yeah. So the stories he had is great. His appearance in the movie Major League was fantastic. So, and he made a lot of regular appearances on Johnny Carson.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And those are always terrific.
That's where the Mr. Baseball tag came from, Johnny Carson.
It did.
Yes.
Interesting. So, yeah, we're going to miss him. He's a great, and, you know, he's got a statue out in front of the Milwaukee Stadium, just like, you know, the Colonel Jerry Coleman here at Petco. So it's all good. It's all good. So we tip a hat and salute him. The Alex Bregman is an interesting character because, you know, it's funny. He's from Albuquerque, you know, and my son was at UNM for a while, and they love him in Albuquerque. He can do no wrong. He's Mr. New Mexico. But then with that whole cheating scandal, you typically think of Bregman and Altuve as sort of at the center of it. And so when you think of Bregman, yeah, he's a great talent, no question. You just wonder, you know, what's going on with him? What's his character? And so if he's going to go play on the East Coast, to me, that's fine if it's Boston or the Yankees, but I still just sort of wonder about that guy.
Concur.
You know? And then lastly, with the A's in Sacramento, I mean, that's awesome for the people in Sacramento. So they sold out every seat, every game.
Yes.
So you can't even get walk-up tickets to that. Well, that's going to be a kind of a nice little thrill for the Sacramento fans. Have a little baseball. They can prove that they're a legit expansion target in the future. I think that's great. And yeah, the tragedy with the kid that went to USD and on the fentanyl. I mean, that's just a nationwide problem.
One final thought here on Bob Uecker. And again, he gave me a whole bunch of really cool clip things that I remember just off the top of my head. The other one was his Hall of Fame speech, because he went into the Baseball Hall of Fame. He stood there. He gave a 20-minute monologue full of jokes, cracking on everybody.
Perfect.
It had the people in Cooperstown going crazy. And his closing comment, he paused. He looked around. He said, and they pointed at himself, and he said, "Baseball, Hall of Fame. Not bad for a 200 hitter, eh?" Cool.
Well, but he's in the broadcaster's wing,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, but that's still, he's in Cooperstown. That's all that matters.
And a sidebar comment to that comment was, gee, I thought I'd get inducted because I hit 200.
That's a lot.
Oh, what a cool guy. So we remember fondly with smiles on our face, Bob Euchre. We go from that. Next topic on the table.
Next topic, we're going to go to the Elite Eight, the NFL divisional round.
On we go. Let's talk about matchups because there are everywhere. Buffalo Bills, Baltimore Ravens, a.k.a. MVP Bowl. I'll tell you, John, I'm a stat geek. I admit I'm a stat geek. I always like to look at numbers and say, wow. Yeah, I look at these numbers. Lamar Jackson, as of this playoff game, has 5,343 all-purpose yards at quarterback for Baltimore. He's got 49 touchdowns and only 4 interceptions. I mean, you talk about superstar.
49-4?
Yeah, that's the ratio.
That's passes and runs, right?
That's right.
That's still incredible.
Derrick Henry, 2,100 yards, 18 touchdowns. If Lamar's not doing it, Derrick is going to bang you and he will get it done. Josh Allen, 4,500 all-purpose yards. His ratio, 42 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. Incredible. The guy used to turn the football over a great deal. Baltimore's defense, they were really scuffling in the beginning of the season. People yak at us and say, well, how are you talking about Baltimore being elite? They already got 5 losses. The last 8 games, those kids under John Harbaugh have grown up on defense. They're giving up 264 yards a game in the last 8. Wow. That's amazing. That's why you got to study these stats. Buffalo, plus 24 touchdowns compared to what their defense has given up. They're just going up and down the field on everybody. And by the way, Buffalo, cold weather, wind, snow, and the Bills are 9-0 at home. Going to be a huge, huge challenge for Baltimore. But look who Baltimore's got thunder and lightning on their offensive side of the football. What do you think?
I'm looking forward to watching Derrick Henry. I mean, to me, he's different than every other NFL running back. He's got speed, he's got power, he's huge, he's a tough guy to take down. But any game in Buffalo, New York is always entertaining to watch. So the fans are going to show up. And like you said, the battle of the 2 MVP candidates. This is a, put up or shut up time.
Second game, Kansas City, Houston Texans in the AFC. Here's the big storyline: rest versus rust. Now, Kansas City has not played some of its key starters since their Christmas Day game. They rested everybody the last regular season game. Then they had their bye week. So these guys are well rested, but are they rested versus getting rusty? That bears watching. Chiefs, though, are 15-2. They've won 16 games in a row by a touchdown or less. Does not matter what the conditions are. They're going to play, and they play to win. Mahomes, postseason, 15-3 as a starter under Andy Reid. Now, Mahomes comes to the line of scrimmage. That's a pretty good Houston defense. Just ask Justin Herbert. 52 sacks, 33 takeaways for all those guys on the Houston side of the ball defensively. Huge question. It's just not Mahomes. Can his leaky left tackle, right tackle, hold up against that unbelievable Houston Texans pass rush? And they got CJ Stroud, who can be streaky, who had just a rotten start to the Houston game with the Chargers and then came back, made a bunch of wild plays, and got them the victories. CJ Stroud versus everything that Steve Spagnuolo throws up against the wall defensively, including coverages and blitz packages. This is, the paper says Kansas City is dominant. But the reality is Houston's pretty dynamic. I think it's going to be a fun football game. You worried about rust versus risk or rust versus rest?
Well, I mean, I remember the Rams, took a little bit of time off and they came back not rusty at all. So I see this game, and on one level, I'm thinking, is this the year the Chiefs are going to three-peat, which would be a spectacular achievement in NFL? But the Texans look terrific. They're like you say, their pass rush is great. But I just want to comment on one thing, a little bit of a tangent. The Chiefs had, as you said, the leaky offensive line, yet Mahomes and Andy Reid find a way to win. But the Chargers had a leaky offensive line, and Justin Herbert and Jim Harbaugh could not figure out a way to win. What's the difference?
No Travis Kelce wearing a lightning bolt. No trustworthy wide receivers wearing Charger colors. No running game showing toughness within to bust tackles and make things happen. That was a consummate team loss, even though the world is blaming Justin Herbert. Everything around Justin Herbert was really ratty. In Kansas City, they do it by formation. In Kansas City, they do have Taylor Swift's boyfriend at tight end. And in Kansas City, their banged up receivers are all back, and they're now 3 deep at running back. Big difference between the Chiefs and the Bolts.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be cold. It's going to be ferocious in Kansas City.
Third game, we got Detroit, we got Washington. 1934, that was a lot of third downs ago.
Yeah.
That was the last time Detroit was in a championship game like this. 1934, and these Lions are really good. And Washington has just shocked the world. And I'm not talking about politics and all that. I'm talking about who these Washington Commanders have become. Detroit's offense, they're dynamic. You got Goff having a lifetime career year, 72% completion rate, 4,700 yards, 37 touchdown passes from a guy who couldn't play for the Rams. That's what Jared Goff has become. And his running mates, St. Brown and the two-headed monsters at running back, that's really good. And then you got Detroit's defense, which just plays to take you out of the game. And Detroit's defense is spectacular, and that is what Jaden Daniels and the Bulletproof Commanders offense is going to have to deal with, because Dan Campbell's guys are coming at you. And if they have to beat you up and take some flags along the way, they're coming after you. This will be the biggest challenge, I think, that this kid quarterback has ever had. Jaden Daniels has just been absolutely spectacular. And I think from the Washington perspective, their defensive front's really good. I like their front. Doesn't get a lot of national recognition, but you're going to have to pick your poison. How are you going to do this defensively? You're going to do it to Goff? Are you going to take the 2 running backs out of there? Do you have enough people to cover the tight ends and Amos St. Brown? I mean, Detroit comes along in a scrimmage and said, okay, what do you want to take away? Because I'll get you with all the other guys that are out there. This won't be easy for Washington. First time walking down the street in the playoffs in 18 years. And this is Detroit that's overcome unbelievable amounts of injuries, and they're still playing this weekend. What do you think?
I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I mean, because the Detroit defense, a lot of those guys are like falling off the list, right? They're not playing. But I want to go back to your point. You said 1934. I mean, didn't the Detroit Lions win some championships in the 1950s?
Yeah, but this is the greatest record season they've ever had since 1934.
Okay. But I'll tell you what, I mean, Jaden Daniels, you got to root for the kid. How often have we seen a rookie had this much impact in the league? I mean, who was the last one that's been anywhere close?
Bulletproof offense right now. I mean, it is absolutely amazing what this kid has accomplished. Maybe Dan Marino, first year out of the gate with Miami, but there have not been many quarterbacks that have done this, because many hot young quarterbacks wind up with bad teams and they don't have the people around them. What this kid has done is amazing. He doesn't make mistakes, at least up till this weekend.
Yeah, well, this is going to be good to watch. Dan Campbell have his guys fired up.
Okay, last game, Eagles-Rams. They've both earned it. I was looking for a description. The one that popped to the front of my mind, maybe you'll speak from experience. I can't speak from this. 60-minute bar fight. I think this is what this game is going to evolve into. Rams might be having a bad flashback. Last time they saw Saquon Barkley early in the season, he had touchdown runs of 70, 72, and had a 302 all-purpose yard game when Philadelphia pasted the Rams. Now, it was early in the season. That was a very different Rams team at that point in time. I think the Rams are helped because Jalen Hurts is not running the football at all out of the pocket by virtue of the fact he had the concussion issue just a couple of weeks ago. And Hurts has 3,700 all-purpose yards and 34 touchdowns. So I think the Rams are going to commit the world in the gaps to stop Saquon Barkley and try to make it a quarterback one-dimension game. Does the Rams defense have enough fuel? They won 10 of their last 13, and the defense played really well. You got Matthew Stafford and all of his world experience against a really fierce pass rush. I mean, Philadelphia's front seven brings it. giving up 278 yards per game over the course of the entire season. They've gotten progressively better and better. You got Cooper Kupp. You got Nakua. Will they be able to get open against this really young Eagles secondary? But the problem is, can Stafford have the time with the pass rush in front of him to get those guys open down the field to make some big plays? And the Rams pass rush, well, they're coming off this 9-quarterback sack win when they took Minnesota out of the playoffs. But they're facing, I think, the best group of street toughs I've seen in the modern NFL. That Philadelphia offensive line, led by Lane Johnson, even without Kelsey's brother, that offensive line is really, really good. This is going to be a great game. But Rams have to put a lid on Saquon Barkley, and we'll see if Stafford can hold up against everything that Philadelphia sends, because Philadelphia has been beating up quarterbacks all year long. Like I said, 274 yards per game on defense in the NFL, modern-day NFL. That's pretty good. So John Riley says,
isn't it weird how the Rams always sort of exceed expectations this season? You had counted them out after they started, 1-4?
That's right.
And then they ended up getting to playoff contention. They go against 14-2 Minnesota, who you think would be favored even on the road, and the Rams took care of business. So you got, like, Jared Verse is a really talented young man. I think he's going to be fun to watch against that offensive line. But what's the deal with Saquon Barkley? Why is he so spectacular with Philadelphia, where when he was with the Giants, he was good, but he wasn't this good?
He wasn't this good because he did not have support people around him. His offensive line was weak. His quarterback was hurt. Barkley had a couple of major injuries over the course of his chunk of time with the Giants. And now he's healthy. And his statistics, well over 2,000 yards rushing behind those big beef guys up front with a quarterback that makes things happen. He's got every component around him that's great, so he can be great. That's what's different. He had hardly any of that playing on the other side of the bridge for the New York bad football Giants.
Yeah, so this will be a fun game to watch too. So which games are on Saturday and which are on Sunday?
We got two on Saturday, highlighted by the Kansas City-Houston game. And then that's a good question as to which is which. But there's two on Saturday. I know the Chiefs are playing on Saturday, and then there's two on Sunday.
Okay.
Oh,
this is always the best round of the playoffs. These are the best games, always.
Is it the weekend yet?
I know. You're like a TV addict, man.
Okay, let's move on. We got one more NFL thing to talk about.
Yeah, the coaching carousel, names in the news.
Okay, let's try to run through this just very briefly. Dallas Cowboys, of course, hit the eject button on Mike McCarthy. That has not gone down well in the Dallas Cowboy locker room. They think McCarthy was a Mr. Fix-It man. He was a creative genius. Players like playing for Mike McCarthy. Players are privately grumbling. You let a coach go who won 12 games in 3 straight seasons, and you let him go after this 7-10 season wrecked by injuries? I get the sense Cowboy players don't agree with what Jerry Jones did. Burning question, where do they go? Jerry Jones being Jerry Jones. It's his team. He will make the decision. He doesn't care what you think or what I say. Jerry Jones calls Deion Sanders. However, during the course of conversation, it comes up. Coach Prime, Neon Deion, has an $8 million buyout right now. Jerry Jones is not going to spend $8 million on Neon Deion, even though some Cowboy players, a.k.a. Emmitt Smith and Michael Irvin, want him to hire Coach Prime. They are talking, and again, it's Jerry's team. Jerry's going to do what he wants. Jerry doesn't care what John Riley says. Jerry's talking to Jason Witten, legendary tight end, never coached a game anywhere. And you're talking to him about being your head coach? Is it based on him being really astute and good in terms of X's and O's and all that? Or you're talking to him because he won't stand up to you if you hire him as a head coach with no experience? Other wild card name is Cliff Kingsbury, who's the architect of what's gone on with the kid in Washington, Jaden Daniels. Cliff Kingsbury's been dynamic as an offensive guru, has done well everywhere statistically, failed at the end in Baylor, failed with the Arizona Cardinals, but has had success so far. Those are 3 hot names with the Dallas Cowboys. Mike McCarthy, an interview coming up with the Bears, interview next week with the New Orleans Saints. He wants to go where there is a quarterback. They got Caleb Williams in Chicago. They got Derek Carr in New Orleans. maybe he winds up one of those jobs pretty quickly. Pete Carroll has had interviews, but for some reason, there just seems to be pushback about the fact he's 73 going on 53 who acts like he's 33. I find it hard to believe you would ignore all the accomplishments of Pete Carroll, what he built in Seattle, and prior to that, what he did at USC. But Pete Carroll is waiting. Bears, Raiders seem to be the two that have expressed the most interest in Pete Carroll. Don't understand why there is all this pushback. Brian Flores did a good job in Miami, but the overall big picture being a head coach overwhelmed him. Kind of lost his locker room along the way. They hit the eject button. Went to Pittsburgh, did a good job 1 year for Mike Tomlin. Went to Minnesota. Hell of a job for Kevin O'Connell on the defensive side of the ball with the Vikings. He is a candidate, a couple of different places. I hear possibly New Orleans. But is he going to run out of places to go? Because there are so many other marquee names out there that could be hired. Next one is the coordinator of the year, Ben Johnson, Detroit. Ben Johnson can go anywhere he wants. It's really intriguing what's going on behind the scenes with the Raiders. Tom Brady is making the call on this. Tom Brady now privately has interviewed an front office executive who had been in Detroit 20 years, has been there with Johnson. Brady got along with this guy. Might they hire Ben Johnson, who then brings in his own, quote, knowledgeable, accomplished general manager? And those are the guys that are going to fix Raider football. A week ago, it looked as if they were leaning towards John Spytek in Tampa Bay, but this assistant guy resurfaced in Detroit with a track record of having been with Ben Johnson, so maybe you connect the dots there. The last one is Liam Cohen, hot coordinator, Tampa Bay. The creative aspect of what Baker Mayfield did this year. He just interviewed in Jacksonville. He wants to go where there's a quarterback. Jacksonville's got Trevor Lawrence, and Jacksonville's got a lot of young guys. Jacksonville had a lot of injuries. Liam Cohen seems like he might be the guy there. So there we are. You're not a closet Cowboy fan. You're not going to tell me who Jerry should hire. No, tell me who Jerry should hire and just run through the list. What do you think, don't think about those guys?
Well, I was looking at the list and I'm thinking, would any of those guys be considered a retread? And I'm thinking probably not. You know, even guys like Pete Carroll, they have legit success. Same with Mike McCarthy. But the whole thing about Coach Prime going to Dallas, to me, is fascinating. I was watching Michael Irvin. He was getting interviewed on a lot of the talk shows on FS1 the last couple of days. And he's in regular contact with Prime, right? You know, and he made a good point. He said that Prime gets the whole Dallas Cowboys, America's team, the spotlight, the sparkle, the glitter, everything that comes with that.
Past tense.
But the media still focuses on Dallas, is America's team, and all of that. And he made a really good point that Prime is also a mentor of young men, you know, in a way that's very different than other NFL coaches. And I could see a lot of value in that coming to the NFL. But yeah, is Jerry going to pay an $8 million sign-out bonus? I don't know, but it would be weird for Prime to do a U-turn on college football after everything he's accomplished at Colorado. So, but I look at these other guys. I mean, you know, Ben Johnson's legit. He deserves a shot. I don't know much about Liam Cohen. I know Brian Flores got screwed over in a kind of a racial Rooney Rule situation before. He likely deserves another shot, but there's only so many openings.
Well, there's 6. This is the most unique cross-section of candidates who've got accomplishments on their resume. I mean, I think it's just fascinating just to see how many good guys have surfaced. Pete Carroll is not a retread. Mike McCarthy's not a retread. No. Pete Carroll's got 135 wins. Mike McCarthy's got 174 wins and been in the Super Bowl a bunch of times. So I think this is a cross-section of accomplishment here. Be interesting to see where these guys fall. What do you think about the Raiders?
I like the fact that Tom Brady is in there making decisions. It's like we got a rational mind that knows how to win. And I like how the Davis, you know, Mark Davis is giving him the slack to make those calls. I think that's a great thing for the Raiders. So, you know, if Ben Johnson came there, I mean, that's Brady's top choice, right? I mean, I think that'd be fantastic, but we keep hearing Chicago is where Ben Johnson's going to go.
Ben Johnson will probably have his choice. There's no quarterback. Hell of a lot of other things that are not in Las Vegas. There is the quarterback and a whole bunch of other people in Chicago. They just need somebody to mold it and deliver it. Once we get beyond the playoffs, these hirings are going to start to fall very, very quickly. And like I say, this is a really good cross-section of accomplished names who are head coaching candidates. Hey, we get to halftime. You got a question? We want to hear your opinions. Fans Forum chat box is open. I invite you to jump in right now. Fill up the side panel here on my computer so you can participate. Fans Forum is coming up right at the end. This podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. I had projects at home. He had projects at home. Where did we go? We went to DIXIELINE Lumber. And it's just not a place to buy boards and sticks and all that. DIXIELINE Lumber offers so many other different things there. John, just run through their batting order of things in their lineup that they have to offer.
Lumber, building materials, fasteners, hardware, tools, power tools, outdoor equipment. I mean, the list goes on. Electrical, plumbing, home decor. They've got it all. And the beauty is that they've got a drive-through lumber yard, so you can just roll in, load up your truck. The guys will help you. Or if you need to have things delivered, they're there for you. So DIXIELINE will take care of you if you're a homeowner or a contractor.
And we invite you to go to the website. If you've never been there, you've heard the name, go to the website, DIXIELINE.com, and just take a scroll through all the unique and different things that they offer. DIXIELINE Lumber, one of our corporate sponsors. Just a couple of other business notes. You like sports? I write about sports every day. You need to check that website, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. Do it first thing every morning. You'll get every story there is in the world of sports, whether you're a baseball freak, you love the NFL, you're into the NBA, you're from old Canada, hockey issue, whether it's English Premier League, soccer, auto racing, golf, I cover it all. LeeHacksawHamilton.com. Also, join Hacksaw's Insiders Group. Just fill out the big orange box on the homepage. Give us your email address. We'll put you on the list. You'll be getting stuff on a day-by-day basis from it. Want you to share. Tell everybody what we do on this podcast Mondays and Thursdays. Want you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. When you do that, you'll get alerts every time we put something up. Then we do put stuff up all hours of the day on the YouTube channel. Want you to also join me on Twitter, become part of Hacksaw's Twitter All-Star team. Just go to X, type in my slug line, aka handle, at Hacksaw1090. And when we're done with these topics on the table, we're introducing to you your chance to be part of this very unique podcast. John Riley describes what Fans Forum is.
Well, I'm already looking at the Fans Forum. They're all piling in. Everyone's giving you crap about your Oilers sweatshirt right now.
Thank you.
A lot of the O Canada people are online. So if you got a question or comment in the world of sports, just drop your take in the live chat. Facebook, X, or YouTube will get you involved in Fans Forum.
Okay, we go to the second half here. We're going to make a quick run. Then we're going to Fans Forum because there are a lot of different people with lots of different opinions. John, go ahead. Let's go to the second half. What do you want to start?
Okay, we're going to go on the hardwoods, the NBA, a lot of big topics.
Last night, the LA Clippers beat the Brooklyn Nets. First of all, the Brooklyn Nets are just kind of a franchise that's just kind of out there. They're not the New York Knicks. There's not a history, a legacy, the Mecca, Madison Square. It's the freaking Brooklyn Nets. The Clippers beat the Nets by 59 points.
Holy crap.
I've never seen anything like it. All-time biggest Clipper win. All-time worst Nets loss. The big storyline is Kawhi Leonard. He led them in scoring last night. Kawhi Leonard is on a minutes cap. He, of course, is coming off with 3 different surgeries. He's missed so many games. They're playing him on the average of 21 minutes a game. He's not playing crunch time at the end. They're not going to say, bail me out in the fourth quarter with 3 minutes to go. He's averaging 21 minutes. He scored 23 points last night, his best game. But they're doing it in small increments. That's really good. Slow growth. Second name, Lonzo Ball. Kid from UCLA. LeVar Ball's kid. One of the 3 that tried to make it in the NBA. Played very well early in his career. Went to Chicago, broke down. He's had 3 knee surgeries. Unique experimental cartilage regrowth procedure. It took him 2 years to get back on the court. He made his first start in the NBA since 2022 the other night. Played 19 minutes, had 15 points.
Hey,
slow process. He is making some progress. This knee cartilage transplant is very unique experimental. So far, so good for him. Lakers. I understand getting blown out at home by San Antonio. They got killed by San Antonio. I understand being down 18 to woeful Miami without Jimmy Butler. The Lakers coach lost his home in the fires. LeBron James, Anthony Davis, both evacuated from their homes in the middle of the night because of those fires. Luckily, their houses survived. I just understand how hard it is, because I lived through it, for them to go through these fires here. However, at the end of the day, boy, they play poor against San Antonio. This is Laker basketball as we used to know it, not anymore. They got killed in the fourth quarter and in the second half of the game. They got outscored 70-43 by San Antonio, which outside of Victor Wembanyama does not have a lot of marquee players. 70-43 in the second half. They scored only 13 points in the fourth quarter, and then they followed it up. They're in an 18-point hole against Miami before they rallied to win. So there's still an awful lot of questions here. Still a lot of things that just don't seem to fit with Laker basketball. So you want to talk Clippers, Lakers, Kawhi, Lonzo? Go ahead, John.
It's nice seeing Kawhi back, isn't
Yes.
it? Yeah, I mean, you would hate to have his career end with all these injuries because he's just too special of a guy. I mean, I just remember when he got drafted, I think it was by the Pacers, and then they got flipped to the Spurs, and he was like really exceeded expectations. I think he was like a number 15 pick in the first round. He just done so well. But I was watching the highlights of the game last night, and his post moves look really good. He was hitting mid-range jumpers. It was like the old Kawhi. And I'm thinking, wow. I mean, are the Clippers and Lakers still like tied for first place in the Pacific Division of the NBA?
Depends what night and who plays badly, but yeah. One's got 21 wins, the other's got 20, and that's going to be interchangeable in the Pacific. But neither one of them is what I'd call upper echelon in the NBA West.
They're probably like a 4, 5, or a 6 seed in the West, right? Maybe. So, and then I remember the Ball family. There were 3 of them, weren't there? There was Lonzo. There was it Melo,
LiAngelo, and LaMelo.
Oh, D'Angelo.
No, LiAngelo.
LiAngelo.
Yeah, he failed as a basketball player and left UCLA. He's into rap music now. LaMelo is playing very well down in Charlotte. He's had some real significant injury problems, and his other problem, he's playing on a really bad Charlotte Hornets team that just can't get it right. You know, once upon a time they were owned by Michael Jordan. I don't know, their record's like 7-29 or something in Charlotte.
Well, I thought one of the Ball brothers was playing in Europe. You know, maybe it was the third one that, you know, as his career ended. Remember the father? Remember he would come out boastful. He was like a walking, talking PR machine for the family. You don't hear much about him anymore.
No, he's gone silent because what's happened to Lonzo and the fact that it's been a struggle for LaMelo and the fact that LiAngelo was a bust.
Right.
He was what's all things wrong with a parent.
Yeah, and he was making appearances on the Tonight Show circuit and everything else. He was something else. And the Lakers, I mean, it's just drama all the time. Yeah, you could say, you know, a little bit of disruption there with the fires. I get that. But something ain't right there. Something's not working.
So you regret giving LeVar Ball your credit card number to buy the Ball family golden basketball shoes?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not doing that.
Okay, that's all things basketball. You got an opinion, feel free to jump on board in fans forum. Last thing, topics on the table, names in the news. Here we go.
The high-speed sports wire. Here we go.
Yeah, let's just run through a bunch of different things. I find this one hard to believe because everything that's on TV that's NFL related, most all of us watch. Did not happen this week. After a really good year of big-time teams in the NFL, the TV ratings came out and the wild card ratings went down the drain. The wild card weekend TV ratings collectively were down 9%, which is kind of hard to understand because all things NFL related on TV usually are successful. But at the end of the day, there were 3 blowouts along the way. So that's why these games happened the way they did. Green Bay, Philadelphia, they drew 35 million viewers. Eagles, of course, just tore apart Jordan Love and the Packers, down 11%. Broncos, Bills, the Bo Mix storyline ended. They had 31 million viewers. Actually, they broke even to last year's same telecast. Rams, Minnesota, 25 million. That was down 13% for the Rams' upset win over the Vikings. Chargers, Houston, 25 million as Justin Herbert threw the game away. That was down 7%. Tampa, Washington, They drew 28 million, but that was down 19% despite the last-minute heroics of Jaden Daniels. And Baltimore-Pittsburgh, which was a streaming game, they had 22 million viewers, 3% drop. So TV ratings virtually every game went down. You kind of surprised at that?
You know, it's funny because I think they've been milking the NFL cow for revenue and ratings for so long that finally I think the spigot is running dry. But it is funny, though, the TV Guide logo up there. I mean, when was the last time you looked at a TV Guide?
1962.
Yeah, something like that. And you know what's funny is I follow some of these guys on social media, and they're sports history guys, and they'll show, if you remember on the TV Guide, on some pages they have a half page and they have the roster of like the Vikings versus the Raiders and the Super Bowl 10 and in 1975, I think it was. And I remember looking at that and was just I would just be absorbed by looking at all those names and numbers and
study
everything.
that stuff.
Yeah. And then they would have the sports they would have a sports area where they would show just the sports content and when it was on TV. But TV Guide, I mean, that was like probably one of the best magazines for a little while, and that's gonzo now.
You could pick it up on Thursday at the Delicatessen where I grew up on Long Island, and then you'd start funneling through the pages, and it'd show you Friday and Saturday and into the following week. Yes. Circa 1962.
But yeah, the ratings down is a surprise to me, and it is weird that the Charger game was the one that had a big increase.
Yeah. But it still lost numbers.
Okay.
Still down in percentage. Second name, Jim Harbaugh. Tent Revival speech continues his exit interview, the end of the disappointing season. He just praised Justin Herbert. This was not on Justin Herbert. He must have read my column. This was a consummate Charger team loss. It was just not the young quarterback who got his ass kicked because he had no help at all. But the big storyline off the field, Jim Harbaugh is going to go 2 surgeries, hip replacement. John and I talked about that, and heart ablation for this irregular heartbeat. The ablation one is a fairly normal procedure. The hip replacement is going to take some time. We'll see once they get through the draft, get into the mini camps, whether Jim Harbaugh is actually going to be functional on the field or riding a golf cart. But Jim Harbaugh will have 2 surgeries. Interesting story in Pittsburgh. Man, as a talk show host, I kind of wish I was there. I'm talking about the end of season Mike Tomlin press conference. The only word I can use to describe it, because I saw it, was defiant. Or maybe I should use the adjective, or maybe it's an adverb, bleeping defiant. He put on a show. If I was there in the front row, he would have been answering my questions in the same tone that he answered all the other questions. These are some of the quotes from him. We are not stuck in our ways. In other words, everybody's critiquing the Steelers for how poor their offense is and their skill possession players and their roster choices. We're not stuck in our ways. And then he says, I embrace the challenge. I own the record. And suddenly everybody in Western Pennsylvania and Steeler fans nationwide are of the opinion, 18 non-losing seasons, that's pretty good. The hell you done in the playoffs? Because they've now gone 0-6. They've not won a playoff game in 8 years under Tomlin's reign. But he says he embraces it and he owns it. He said, football justice, we got it. We earned this 5-game losing streak at the end of the season. He says, you get what you deserve. And he says, I enjoy the urgency of fixing this. There will be changes. The work ahead starts the next day. He was damn defiant. He took a lot of heat. That's okay. That's good. Next one, Caitlin Clark. This is a scary part of sports, scary part of society. I'm not quite sure how this happened. How did somebody get access to Caitlin Clark's cell phone number? Caitlin Clark has been stalked by a guy in Texas since November. The guy is homeless, lives in his car, is a WNBA fan. He drove to Indianapolis and staked out the arena where the Indiana Fever played and tried to confront her. Guy was finally arrested. The guy is facing 6 years in prison for sexual harassment, stalking, and threatening Caitlin Clark. Sadly, that's a price you pay when you're a star, because not everybody out there is a fan. There's a lot of sick people out there. College football. We're getting ready for Monday's championship game. We're going to talk about that on the Monday bonus podcast. Coaches Committee this week, John, just wrapped up its coaches convention. They have proposed to the NCAA and they want action. Radical change transfer portal. Next year, they want one transfer window. They want it open for just 10 days. They don't want it to start till January 2nd. They want it to end January the 12th after the major bowl games. He says, we must stop this mass migration of everybody going everywhere and wrecking teams at the end of the season and wrecking teams in their own bowl preparation or impacting teams that are even in the playoffs. NCAA's response, we will negotiate the dates. Maybe it's not going to be January 2 to January 12. Maybe it's going to be February 1st to February 15th. But there will be one window, and it'll be much more limited. So the NCAA is going to respond. LIV golf. I bet you'd be thumbing through the TV guide trying to find out, when does the LIV season start? Where the hell are they playing? What network are they on? Interesting story coming out of Spain. His name is Eugenio Chacarra, outstanding Spanish player. He jumped to LIV 3 years ago. Won one tournament the first year. Since then has not done anything, has been let go, in essence, fired by LIV. Interesting press conference. Because he violated his tour card and jumped, 1 year ban from the PGA Tour. The current rule, which has been in effect since Phil Mickelson left, is if you leave, you can't be reinstated till 1 year after you play your final event. So Chacarra, he's going to sit this year. He's got no place to go because the EuroLeague will not allow him to come back. He is going to try to make it on his way back, going through the Asian League. He did make a really interesting comment that if John Riley wins on the PGA Tour, it impacts the rest of his career. It impacts his career as a golfer, as a guy be able to market himself, might put himself in the run for all the major tournaments, Grand Slam, Masters, all that. He says, changes your life forever. He says, if you win on the LIV Tour, it doesn't matter. You get paid whether you finished 1 or you get paid whether you finish 30. You just go on to the next tournament and wait to cash a check. It's interesting. From within comes a player who said, what's going on over there, Saudi Arabia, LIV, all their money, it doesn't have the same impact on me as it would be if I won and qualified to go to the Masters. Isn't that interesting? So, John, a lot of different topics on the table. Start from Harbaugh, work your way through Tomlin to Caitlin to the transfer portal and LIV golf.
You know, when I see Harbaugh walking and he's got that hitch in his step, I could just feel the pain that he must be having with that. I imagine it's arthritis or something, maybe from some old NFL football injuries. So wish him well. Tomlin is a dude, you know, I mean, like, he's a guy that you really like, but you were saying in the best 15 that he hammered down. He goes, we are definitely going to have Russell Wilson and
Justin Fields
as our quarterbacks. And I'm thinking to myself, who's the GM in Pittsburgh and that makes these decisions for those two guys?
A new guy by the name of Omar Khan I think it's his second or third year there. They've drafted well, but they've drafted non-sexy positions. They fixed the offensive line. Now they're really young, and the offensive line struggled last year, but he's got a lot of high draft picks there. And obviously, they built this defense, highest paid defense in the NFL, a lot of draft picks there. But where they're drafting, that's the back third of the draft. There's no marquee franchise-changing quarterbacks in the back third, and they're always drafting in the back third, etc. Now, his comment, though, was one of these guys is going to start all 17 games. Now, he didn't say Russell Wilson, did not say Justin Fields. One of these guys. They just picked up a third quarterback yesterday. The backup quarterback in Miami, Skylar Thompson, who became a free agent, has signed in Pittsburgh, but he's not a game changer. So Pittsburgh, to me, has to fix the skill position guys around whomever the quarterback is. And Pittsburgh's got to get speed at wide receiver and speed at running back. I bet that's going to be the emphasis. He's a dude, there's no doubt about it, but this is not Pittsburgh Steeler football. I'll be honest with you. They are pissed in Aliquippa and McKees Rocks and Oil City and New Kensington because having a nice season is not equal to going deep in the playoffs.
Well, Tomlin has a Super Bowl trophy, doesn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. And so I think you'd have to go back to, who was that original coach back in the day? Chuck Noll.
Oh, he was the one that turned the whole franchise.
So, but he had 4, right?
And then Cowher.
And then Cowher had 1, and I think Tomlin has 1, right? So, yeah, I mean, if you win a Super Bowl, it's hard to the fans to get really that angry with you. But to your point, he's been sort of middling. You know, he's in the playoffs, but not usually a top seed. and then they end up getting low picks in the draft.
Steeler football, the way Steeler football has been, does not seem to be able to compete to what modern day NFL football has become. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, bring back Cordell Stewart. We need Slash behind the center. Okay, Caitlin Clark. That's a sad story, but that's more of a comment on society and mental health and everything else. So hopefully they wrap that up. Looking forward to the NCAA playoffs. You know, I mean, we're going to be. Are we down to the final four or the final two? The final two, the championship game.
Cameron James Monday night.
That's going to be awesome. So I'm looking forward to that. And the LIV story, I think, is great. I mean, I think he spoke the truth. That kid, I never heard of him, you know, because he won an LIV tournament. Of course, I've never heard of him because we're not watching on television. And he's right. You win a PGA tournament, it does change your life. Now, by the way, did you see that, you know, the Torrey Pines tournament coming here to San Diego? There aren't getting that many big names for that tournament.
As of today, now the tournament's another week out. As of today, they have only 20 of the top 40 money winners on the tour. Now, granted, there's some really good names. Jason Day, the great Australian, is back. He always comes and plays here. Colin Morikawa, I believe, will be here. He always plays well here. But this has become a second-tier tournament, sadly, because it's not one of the tournaments that has now the guaranteed pool of $25 million. The other problem is the roster of guys on the PGA Tour outside of Xander Schauffele and Scotty Scheffler is not what it used to be when we had the legendary Phil Mickelson, when we had Tiger Woods, when we had Dustin Johnson, when we had the guys at the Dork that you root for, Bryson DeChambeau.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, those guys are not here. They're over there. They're being the LIV, where nobody watches a tournament, even knows where the hell the tournaments are being played and what channel are they on because it's not listed in your TV guide.
Hey, what's your take on that new like video game golf where they have the pros show up and it's all virtual?
Tiger and Rory.
Yeah.
Yeah. They had the first one a week ago. 9.9 million people who had nothing to do watched it on ESPN. 9.9 million. But it's an experiment. It's an exhibition. Is it real? No. Why would I spend what limited hours I have, aside from my work detail here, to watch that? It doesn't mean anything.
Well, it meant something to a lot of people. It seems like it's getting a lot of buzz. And I think there was a guy here in Chula Vista that was responsible for it. And it's cool the way they design the courses because they can do things that you can't do in real life. So I don't know, I think it's a kind of a fun aside, you know, just to kind of keep us entertained.
John, you're invited to waste all the free time you have in your life watching computerized golf on ESPN.
I'll just take in the highlights.
Not me. I'll pass on that. Okay, this podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you. You got projects, they've got materials. You want ideas, they can become your consultant. DIXIELINE's coming in here and they're going to finish the studio off. We will get this done. But you got projects, think DIXIELINE. Check their website, DIXIELINE.com, for all the things they have. We're done talking. It's your turn. Fans forum chat box is open. With apologies in advance, hell, we might be here till Friday. We got so many people want to join us. John, I'm going to put you on the stopwatch. Hit the floor running, pick a topic, let's go.
Pick the topic, pick up the phone. Okay, let's go here to Ramon. He goes, breaking news. Padres agree to free agent deal with catcher Martin Maldonado per Dennis Lin.
Good guy. Backup catcher, lots of places, mostly with Houston. Good glove. No bat. So he was probably a very affordable catcher to help as an insurance policy with Luis Campusano. That's okay. That doesn't solve all the other issues the Padres have vis-a-vis payroll, vis-a-vis need for another frontline starting pitcher, vis-a-vis on the clock waiting for Hiroki Sasaki. But Maldonado has played lots of places, and he's been on and off rosters, but he can play with a glove in his hand.
I'm just wondering if the Padres are going to have Ethan Salas up sometime this year. I mean, you know, they kind of force-fed Tatis, and that worked out really well. So, you know, now they at least have an answer to the question for Hiroki Sasaki, who are you going to pitch to? You know, so that Maldonado is a reputable dude.
I don't think they're giving up on Campusano. He did do well when he went to El Paso, but they never brought him back. We'll see if Campusano takes a step forward. This might be his last year in the organization, though, unless he becomes a proven commodity. And proven commodity is defensively, he's got to be better because he was one of the poorer rated defensive catches in Major League Baseball. His pass ball stuff and inability to throw guys out, we never guessed that because he had moved through the system very quickly. And to answer your question, yeah, maybe by midseason, towards the end of the season, we're going to see at Salas. But Salas has to prove that he can hit. You know, he only hit 205 at AA. And if you're not hitting 205 at AA, you're not going to hit in the major leagues. And do you want to have a catcher hitting 118, even though his defensive skills at the major league level are good? So it might be a bit of a reach to push him from AA all the way to Major League Baseball. Just to have to see how he does. I would assume he starts at AAA El Paso this year.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. But, the price is right, as far as making that payroll work with a young kid like Salas.
On we go. Next one.
Okay, let's go here to Force Ghost Fabio. He goes, Brock Purdy was the last pick in the draft. Don't hit us with can't find a quarterback in the bottom of the first round. Marino was the 27th pick also.
Yeah, well, he's talking about this Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger was not a first-round pick. He came from Miami of Ohio. It turned out to be a hell of a project and became a hell of a quarterback. You can find guys, but some years the list of quarterbacks is really deep, and you can find a good one in the second round or the third round, or in this unique case, Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant. But that happens few and far between. And if you go back, if you just go year by year, just go through NFL draft on Google, NFL draft list, and just go back the last 10 years, just in the first round, and just make a list of how many quarterbacks were taken in the first round. And I bet only 30% of them became established guys who could be successful in the NFL. The fatality rate it's really, really hard.
But, it all proves out at the end, because you look at the teams that are still alive right now, every one of them's got a great quarterback. And some of them have been great for many years.
And some of them got great by going other places. This Jared Goff evolution, to me, is just absolutely staggering.
Yeah, unbelievable. So, yeah, you got to find a quarterback. Okay, moving on. Okay, now these are the people that give me a crap about that Oilers sweatshirt. I'm going to bring up a few of them. Here's one from Gary, LA Kings fan here. Can you please get rid of that awful Oilers hoodie? Okay, let's get to another one here. This is from John. Looking forward to the day you put on a Washington Capitals sweater for the podcast. Then here's one from Matt. Hacksaw, where's the Winnipeg Jets gear?
Okay, for the O Canada Network, I do have a large entourage of different gear with different labels that was given to me or I bought or I traded for. So for hockey fans in the O Canada Network, I will wear some of the other diverse things that I have. But listen, I am not a fashion plate. I am colorblind. I am left-handed. Good looking. There's so few of us like this. Just tolerate the wardrobe, because the rest of this podcast is really good. And I told John, we do sports the way it should be done.
We do. I think it's good.
And look at the way the hell he's dressed.
Well, yeah.
He violates the dress code every Monday and Thursday.
Yeah, I violate it every time. But, it's just funny the crap that you get on this podcast. Either they're complaining about your hair, your mustache, your sweatshirt, everything. But they all love you because you bring it. You bring the content that people want. That's all good.
Bring the heat, meat. Okay,
yeah.
Next one.
Okay, let's go here to Callan. He goes, afternoon, gents. Sad day for baseball, and for that matter, sports broadcasting. There will never be anybody like Bob Uecker. That's all we got. One goddamn hit. Don't worry, nobody's listening anyway.
He was pretty good in the movie Major League, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He really was. But I interviewed him twice, once at spring training and once actually when he went off on the TV tangent, Mr. Belvedere, and he had so many stories and he was so glib. I think that the way you can describe the end result of Bob Uecker, he lived a life that he enjoyed and he loved it. And he was non-political and he was all baseball and he loved everything about it. He had an unbelievable relationship with soon-to-be Commissioner Bud Selig, and he cared a great deal about the Milwaukee Brewers. But man, he had so many stories. And I think back, and I've interviewed so many people as a sports talk show host, and he was the most unique personality. He was out there, and his quotes and the stuff that come out of his mouth, it make you laugh. It was fun.
Is there anyone like Bob Uecker in the other big sports, football, basketball, hockey, that you could compare him to?
Boy, that's a good question in terms of announcers.
But it's someone that's just like an ambassador, and it's always fun, always has something to bring.
Well, I think some of the analysts on NFL TV, but those guys change a great deal. So I don't know that they can be, quote, ambassadors, because ambassadors usually equates to length of time. Bob Uecker got hired by the then Brewers to do baseball in 1971 after the franchise moved from Seattle. Used to be the Seattle Pilots. He's been doing baseball from 1971 up until this past season. So there's longevity there. So it's different than the NBA. I would say different than the NFL. In terms of NBA, I would have to say Sir Charles is an ambassador.
There you go.
Loudmouth.
That makes sense.
All that kind of stuff. In hockey, you might not have had access to him. I did because I broadcast hockey, grew up watching him at Hockey Night in Canada. I was fascinated by the aura of Don Cherry from Hockey Night in Canada, bad jackets and all. Speaking of bad wardrobe, holy cow. But he stepped in it a couple times and he wound up losing his job, and he's out on the periphery, no longer part of it. I think he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Not only was he a pretty good NHL head coach, but obviously he's an ambassador of the game. So I'd say just off the top of my head, those are the names I mentioned about the word ambassador.
Yeah. Barkley is perfect. I mean, but because there's a lot of great announcers, but not announcers that were also players that have sort of that street cred with all the other former players. So yeah, Euchre, that he was very special. 90 years. I mean, what a great life. I'd love to have his life.
Just a bit outside.
Just a bit. Like those guys were like, in the movie, they were like swigging whiskey during the thing when everything was going to hell.
Next one.
Good movie. Okay, here's more people piling on. They're like, here, Gene, questionable hoodie choice, Lee.
I didn't think so. I put it on. It was clean in the closet. What are you bitching about? This podcast is really good, Matt.
Please take that hoodie off, Lee. LOL. And here's another one. Boo, Oilers. Come on, Hacksaw. You know better than that. Where's the WST Jets love?
Well, I've got 2 Winnipeg Jets hoodies. I promise I will wear one of them because, dude, they are the best in their division, and they're going to go deep in the playoffs.
Deep in the playoffs. Yeah, here's another one here from SGA. Matt, don't tell Lee to take that hoodie off. You know, everyone's fighting about what you're wearing. Okay, let's find someone else.
Imagine what somebody's going to say when I show up in a Dodger hoodie again.
Oh, that was weird. But it was good. But you have legit like Dodger credentials. You've been to Vero Beach. You've interviewed Vin Scully. You grew up on Long Island. So I can give you a pass for that one.
I can't give you a pass on whatever the hell you're wearing. And again, I'm colorblind. Is that charcoal? What the hell color is that?
It's hey, I'm
bad.
I'm
Bad
a
color.
wingman. I'm going to be neutral, so the focus is more on you.
When people ask me, what color is that? My answer is dark.
Yeah, it's like a dark gray. Yeah, it's all good.
Next one.
Okay, let's go here to Joey. And he goes, is Roki going to the Dodgers or the Padres?
We're on the clock. We're all waiting. I might be in the minority. I think this is win-win for either. I don't think either one loses. Whoever doesn't get Roki Sasaki, it's not fatal. Now, from the Dodgers standpoint, they have so many players. And from the Dodgers standpoint, they have such a big budget. From the Padres standpoint, they don't have the big budget, but they have the bargaining chip because they're going to have to move somebody to get this payroll back down. And it might be a rise. And if they send, for example, if they send a rise to the Yankees and they get the young middle rotation guy, Clark Schmidt, who I thought they'd get last year, and they get Jason Dominguez, who I thought they should have traded for in the Soto deal. If they get those two, that solves a couple different problems for the Padres. Now, granted, you got a big hole in your batting order because you lose a National League batting champion, a .318 average, and a spray hitter, but you also free yourself of $14 million in commitment. So if the Padres don't get Roki, they do have a bargaining chip to go get other guys, younger guys, affordable guys to fill the hole. I don't think it's fatal. If he goes to the Dodgers, geez, Dodgers get another frontline starting pitcher, which is already very deep.
Yeah, I mean, it would be unbelievable if we went to LA, but I think you've got to say the betting line favors that. Did you see the video of Roki Sasaki in the Padre gear throwing the ball at Petco Park? I mean, what'd you take on that?
Well, was that true or is that A1 generated? I don't know.
Oh, you think it's AI? No,
AI.
Yeah, I think it's probably real, but because they're all showing all the construction that's going on in the stadium at the same time. But to the other point with Luis Arraez, there's a big debate online about really how valuable is he? I mean, granted, yeah, he's won the batting title. He makes contact. He puts the ball in play. He's got high batting average, but the low walks, the WAR is only around 1.0. And is he really as good as people think?
That's an awful lot of money, $14 million for a singles hitter who plays one possession, doesn't have a great glove, doesn't run the bases well, and is negligible in the power department. Normally, your first baseman hits for average and drives it out of Petco Park. This guy is very different. I don't think he's a bad citizen, although he has been traded 3 times, which I kind of think is really weird. But you can pay $14 million for a singles hitter when you have budgetary problems. Singles hitter going to another club might make sense if you can get the right guys back in the transaction that you can plug in. If Clark Schmidt comes from the Yankees and can be the next Michael King, that's a win-win for the Padres.
Yeah.
Granted, there'll be a hole in the middle of the batting order at the top of the leadoff spot, but We'll just see where this goes. I don't think it's a lose situation if the Padres lose Sasaki because they do have another bargaining chip. And I got to find somebody who wants to take on Ariza's salary and Ariza's limitations. I'd hate for them to have to trade Dylan Cease, though, because that's the front of your rotation.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, if we sat here on opening day and we had Darvish and we had Cease and we had Michael King and then we had Roki, yay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that'd be ideal. But going back to Luis Ariz, a lot of people compare him with Tony Gwynn, but also Rod Carew.
Exactly.
Now, was Rod Carew a power hitter?
No, he was a big-time spray guy.
Yeah,
and he was a first baseman and a second baseman.
Well, so is Ariz.
Exactly.
I mean, it seems like that might be a comparable
Exactly.
balance, because Gwynn would show power on occasion, especially near the end of his career.
Gwynn would hit the crap out of the ball every year.
Yeah, but it seems like when he talked to Ted Williams, Ted talked about turning on the ball and driving it down the right field line.
Yeah. And he hit some home runs over the course of his career. Mm-hmm. And he ran the bases and stole bases, again, before age, and he got portly, showed up. But Ariz just seems to be structured. This is all Ariz does, and you can't change him. All right, next one.
Next one. Okay, let's go here to Matt. He goes, I wanted to tell Lee to throw that hoodie out. So asking him to take it off is a fair compromise, in my opinion. They're just piling on. Okay, here's another one from Four Seater. He goes, 100% concur about Bregman. Send him to Boston with Cora or Detroit with AJ Hinch.
You guys are just in grudge mode over the Houston Astros garbage can cheating scandal. That was a few curveballs ago.
That was 2017, right? That was like 7 years ago, but that was wrong. And you want to see these guys getting rewarded. I mean,
okay. You can be in grudge mode. I would say this, that I was told that Boston, one of the beat writers emailed me, and we were just comparing notes. I was told Boston approached him about, if we do this, we think you're our second baseman. And he said, right on. Now, there's limitations, because Scott Boras said earlier today he is not signing a 3-year deal with opt-outs. He wants the full max, which is 6 years or 7 years. But it's Boston. Boston can afford big payroll. I'll tell you what, you put him in the middle of what I think is a really good. Are there any Red Sox fans from the state of New England like to join us? You look at the Boston lineup, and they force-fed all their kids, and early last season, the Red Sox were miserable. And by the end of the season, they were all hitting. And you put all these guys with now Bregman and Raf Devers, that's pretty good batting order. And Boston's had, I think, a really good offseason in terms of pitching upgrades to go with their young pitchers.
The state of New England?
State of New England. That's like Patriot Nation.
But, even if the Red Sox added Bregman, and let's say Bregman played up to his, level of performance that you would expect, they're still behind the 8 ball with the Yankees and the Orioles and maybe not the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays keep getting screwed out of all these free agents, it seems.
It's weird that nobody wants to go play in Canada because that franchise has had great history. It's still got the 2 marquee cornerstone guys, Vlad Guerrero and the shortstop Bo Bichette. Boston's good. Boston will get better. Boston got Garrett Crochet.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm going to bring my free agent cheat list in. I'll make you a copy so you'll be fully informed, even though you're dressed like a slob.
You're telling me I dress like a slob?
Thank you. Take it in. Take a number. Stand behind me. So I think Boston's had a good season. And by the way, the state of New England, if I was doing sports talk radio, my opening phrase would be, from the nutmeg state to the pine tree state and everywhere in between. This is sports talk in New England, the way it should be done.
From
Nutmeg State, Connecticut, Pine Tree State, Maine.
Yeah, and I was thinking, there's a bunch of unusually named cities there on the coast in Connecticut. Now, we can come up with a whole bunch of shtick there.
We're not doing geography talk today. We got important stuff to talk about.
Okay, and here's one here from Javi, and he says, Roki will either end up being like Ohtani with Angels or play for the World Series. Up to him.
What is? It's his choice. Whoever he signs with, he's locked for 6 years. And he's affordable for 6 years. He's got developed to become a superstar. I wrote a column this week on my website, which you should read, leehacksawhamilton.com. I wrote a column, and they've come up with a nickname for him, Rocket Man 2. They say his stuff, his fastball cutter, is equal to the original Rocket Man, Roger Clemens. And if he polishes pitch 3, polishes pitch 4, he's going to be really, really good. So he's not Not the full product yet, but everybody's had the opinion he is going to be a great talent.
There's just so much talent just brimming here.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of these other international signings are unbelievable, but I'm surprised like Roki doesn't already know who he's signing with, you know, because it's not a lot of negotiation differences in the pay. He's done the tour. He's visited everybody. He's narrowed down the list. Let's make a decision so that whichever team gets him can now, you know, get other free agents if they have any international pool money left.
Some teams do. Some teams are trading to get additional pool money, but there's, as I say, they're down to 3 finalists. And the Dodgers have lost the top 3 international free agents they were negotiating with, whom they told, we're not going to sign you at this point. These guys have all jumped to other teams for inflated prices. So at the end of the day, they put all their chips on the table to get Sasaki, like the Padres have. Only time will tell. You know, I wake up at like 4:30 every morning, just out of happenstance, and I wait for ding, ding, ding on my cell phone, and because that's where I get bulletins, and I keep waiting to read about Sasaki. It's coming. It's got to happen between now and the 23rd. I think it's going to happen sooner than later. Okay, John, let's do a couple more here.
A couple more. There was one good one in here from Angel. I'm trying to find it. Where did it go? But I'm going to paraphrase for him. He said, Angel said that never mind. I'm going to blow that up. Let's go to social media, and I'll circle back, and we're going to get those comments back in. Okay, here, let's talk about the Dodgers and the Padres. And this is from Into Get Fit. Roki Sasaki isn't going to that hot mess of an organization. LA Dodgers, best organization in baseball. I remember the McCourt days and the team being in shambles for a few years.
Well, bad owner. Bad owner bankrupted the thing. Bad owner stole money from the thing. Bad owner got forced out by Major League Baseball. Bad owners never resurfaced of anything of you know, anything of success. This is quite a well-heeled Guggenheim organization that's running this situation. So at the end of the day, and the Padres are not a hot mess. Padres have become a really good organization. Have they extended their payroll? Have they taken a gamble? Yes. Has it worked out at this point? No. But the Padres are not out of it by any stretch of the imagination, even though they're having to pare their payroll some. You know, unless he's talking about the Blue Jays being a hot mess. But knowing somebody from Southern California, he's just probably throwing spitballs at Padre broadcasters.
Yeah, that's definitely what it is. It is spitballs, but you know, it is similar to that. And I remember that was a down period for the Dodgers.
Oh, dark time.
A very dark time.
Bad person.
And they still went out and signed free agents, but they were just kind of meh. Do you know who Mr. Wonderful is? Have you ever heard of that guy?
I heard the name, but
he's like on the what is it, the Shark Tank show with Mark Cuban, and he was talking about how he was partnering with Frank McCourt, assuming it's the same one, I don't know, to buy TikTok. Have you heard anything about that?
Yes.
So,
and McCourt, as a byproduct of the settlement to sell the Dodgers to Guggenheim, retained one of the portions of parking lots. And McCourt in LA is trying to build SkyTrams that people could park and take a SkyTram into downtown LA, but it's run through a lot of political red tape. McCourt went to Europe. He bought a soccer team over there, not in the English Premier League, but in the second level, but it's not had great success. So, I mean, the scandal that he left behind and the fact that they stole money, he and his ex-wife stole all these profits and went on lifestyle binges, et cetera. Just dark moment of Dodger baseball.
Very dark moment. Okay, let's keep moving on here, and we'll get to okay, here's a good one here. This is from Al Cox. He goes, the next time Smacksaw says anything good about the Pods will be the first.
Al Cox, I think that's a really bad assessment. Do I have a right to critique the volumes of contracts that they gave out? I sure do. You're not going to sit there and tell me the James Shields contract, in which they had to pay so much money to get the White Sox to take him, was a good deal. You're not going to sit there and tell me the Hosmer investment, which is still on the books, was a good acquisition. The fact that they traded Trey Turner, the fact they made so many moves, they traded the farm system away 3 times. Last I checked, Al Cox, have you been to a World Series game in San Diego recently? No. But that being said, well-run organization, owns the community, phenomenal job making Petco Park destination point. Some really good people work there on the baseball side. I happen to like Preller. But so don't critique me that all I'm doing is taking cheap shots. I'm calling attention to the areas that have gotten them into this situation. And I have a right in the media. I'm not sure what the rest of the media does except cheerlead. You know, what the UT should have is a strong-willed columnist who's going to cite the facts and make comments on the facts. And the fact they've been to a World Series after all the promises. I understand you can build a roster. You might not get to the World Series because of injuries, etc. But Al Cox, they have put themselves in such a tight financial situation since the passing of Peter Seidler. You just have to put the topics on the table. And that's where we are right now. Because last I checked, I've not sat in a press box recently for a Padre World Series game, and you haven't sat along the first base line yet.
You know, it's funny. People give you crap about this sort of thing, that you're always harsh on the team. But do they want, I mean, do we want like a sports cheerleader group? I mean, there's already certain folks in town that are mostly cheerleaders. But I'm sitting next to you here now. We're going on 2 years. You praise the Padres. You were calling Preller executive of the year. Mike Schilt potentially should have been manager of the year. You call out the positives, but also you like Howard Cosell. You tell it like it is.
Devil's advocate. That's my right. That's my responsibility to you, the viewers on this podcast, like it was on Sports Talk Radio. Okay, a couple more. And we have a big announcement right at the end of this podcast. Wow, I slipped through this. We should have been talking about this earlier, but I was so distracted by this bad dark-colored charcoal hoodie he was wearing.
Dark-colored hoodie, too. Okay, I found Angel's comment. I thought this was a really good one. And he says, 2024 Rams remind me of the 1992 Chargers. Both started bad. Everyone thought they were done. Both win division and the first round.
Well, Bobby Ross was the head of a Charger team. I think there was 0-4 out of the gate. It just takes time to build it. And he had a new quarterback, Stan Humphries. It takes time to build it. Sean McVay's got a world of success. And Sean McVay took a team that started with its hands tied behind it because of all the injuries. I mean, they had 6 offensive linemen on injured reserve to start the season. And Aaron Donald retired. They traded their inside linebacker, leading tackler. He went away, and they were force-feeding all their kids. But they got progressively better and better. And then they got healthy, and then they got all the linemen back, and then they got Cooper Kupp, and then they got Puka Nacua back. And now they're all healthy, and they're playing pretty well, and they've grown. McVay has done such a fabulous job being patient, growing them, and putting them on the field. And, of course, they got a vibrant veteran guy who's experienced everything through good times and bad, and Matthew Stafford, who I happen to think, Angel, is a great citizen. Fans don't know that his wife wrote the checks. They just took the money out of their banking account to pay for all the fans' buses that bust all those fans from L.A. to Arizona who bought those last-minute tickets after the game was moved. Matthew Stafford and his wife paid for all the Greyhound buses that took, 35,000 fans.
Really?
To Phoenix for that playoff game. I mean, how cool is that man?
That's awesome. I mean, have you seen him on the Sleep Number
Sure.
TV ads with his wife? And so maybe they're just redirecting their earnings from that. But I think Angel makes a good point. That's a very fair comparison, because that 92 Charger team started off so poorly. And then you made the comment, they're going to run the table. And they pretty much did at the end of that season. And that was when the Chargers were suddenly relevant again in the NFL.
Exactly. I think McVay is just amazing in terms of creative genius, getting players to rally, and the teaching the young players to be consistent, be productive, and be in the facility all the time. However, that being said, they must play the Eagles, the mean green Eagles, Philadelphia Eagles, where they boo Santa Claus. That's about as bloody a hostile environment as you can take a team into. But they got players, and they got a really good quarterback who's a good man.
Yeah, it's going to be a great divisional round, the best weekend in football. Okay, let's go over here. We'll talk to DJ Vic, and he says, wondering how many LA Charger fans met the team at their training facility after this loss. In San Diego, there would always be a crowd of fans welcoming the teams at Charger Park. I'm just curious if LA fans responded like we did. I doubt it, though.
I doubt it, too. Okay, that's a good point about the emotional support here. It takes us to this announcement. We're going to do something really different. A lot of fans don't know this. This is the week of the 30th anniversary of the biggest win in the history of San Diego Charger football. And Charger football goes back to the legendary AFL days of Lance Allworth and Kemp and Hadel and all that. And Charger football goes back to the Hall of Famer Dan Fouts and Eric Coryell and the unbelievable games you people had the enjoyment to watch. And Charger football was the end result of the Super Bowl run. We're doing something special. This is the 30th anniversary of the Charger victory in Pittsburgh. AFC Championship game against the Steelers at Three Rivers, which led them to take the terrible towel with them and go to play in the Super Bowl against the 49ers. So we're doing a Football Friday broadcast tomorrow. Anniversary remembrances of the Chargers Super Bowl season. John and I are going to walk down memory lane. We're going to post it. It's going to be on at 1 o'clock, Football Friday special. Then on Saturday at 1 o'clock, we're going to post a second Saturday special about the people and the places that made that season so really special. And then on Sunday at 1 o'clock, we're going to run a highlight film that I worked with on NFL Films about the greatest moment in San Diego Chargers history. These are special things that'll flash up. You'll get advance notice. So Football Friday, the Chargers stroll down memory lane, the greatest win of all time, why and how. Saturday, we'll talk about the people and the places that were involved in that greatest win of all time. And then Sunday, an NFL Films highlight that I worked on. So I want you to message everybody who's a Charger fan, NFL fan, and take some time because we'll put it up on the YouTube channel. We worked really hard on this. We've been waiting to save it and kind of lost in the memory. And I'm kind of mad at the media in this town because nobody's paid attention. Nobody paid attention on the 20th or 25th anniversary of the accomplishment. So we decided now on the 30th anniversary this weekend, 30 years ago, this weekend at Three Rivers Stadium, that was Bill Cowher, who had his chin jutted out after the Chargers eliminated the Pittsburgh Steelers from the playoffs. So we're going to salute Football Friday, Saturday special, and a Sunday look back honoring the 30th anniversary of the greatest win in Charger history. John Riley says,
well, just to tell the fans here, it's pre-recorded. It won't be a live stream where you can join us, but we will have them hit the YouTube channel. I'm going to try to do it as a premiere at 1 o'clock Friday, Saturday, and hopefully we can pull off the one on Sunday too. So yeah, check that out. I remember that was a great time in sports history when you came back with the team and filled up Qualcomm Stadium after that big win.
68,000 on that Sunday night in a rainstorm. It was electric, and the community response. I mean, we now have the understanding of Padre fan wrapping their arms around Padres baseball, Petco Park, how electric that's become. That's what Charger football was that one given season. So this is the 30th anniversary of the greatest moment in Charger history, and we're going to kind of celebrate that with Football Friday, a Saturday special, and then a Sunday look back.
And I kind of agree here with DJ. I don't know if the LA Charger fans are coming back to show the love. Are they? Maybe a few. Nothing like San Diego.
Tell me I didn't do this. Tell me I did not send the NFL Films documentary that I worked on, Chargers Road to the Super Bowl. Tell me I didn't send that to Dean Spanos. And I did. And my one sentence statement was, thought you'd enjoy seeing this. This was a special moment. You can take the team from us, but you can't take the memories from us. Hope you enjoy it. I emailed that to Dean Spanos.
You tell him, I hope the quarterback goes 17-0 and Spanos goes 0-17. That's usually your line. Okay, let's go. You're a little more Charger talk. And this is from Bob Adias. And he says, hey, they were only projected to win 6 games this season. So winning 11 and making the playoffs, I call it a success. What happened the last time is when you don't have any wide receivers or an interior O-line that can protect the quarterback, you're going to have problems. And we saw it. They can only get better from here.
I signed that memo, but it was really disappointing the way it ended. And the bashing on social media from the unsocial media faction on Justin Herbert, I think is really unfair. Did he throw 4 picks? Yeah. Did he get blasted? Yeah. Did he have any time? No. Did he get any protection? No. Did he have any run game? No. Did his offensive lineman let him down? Damn straight they did. So they'll be better. They need another draft under Joe Ortiz. I said that back on opening day. But they've got to get better. And they were deficient towards the end of the season. And I hate to pull out the old word because the people say, oh, you're just being critical for the sake of being critical. Who the hell did you beat? The 7 games you lost, you got punched in the mouth. So you weren't good enough and you weren't tough enough, and the kid quarterback got hung out to dry trying to do it all by himself. So better days will come. Hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed this podcast. We do sports talk the way it should be done, Mondays at 1 p.m., Thursdays at 1 p.m. And just a reminder, Football Friday special broadcast, 1 p.m. A look back at the 30th anniversary of the greatest win in Charger history, the win in Pittsburgh, AFC Championship game. Go on social media. Alert everybody who's in your Charger notebook about we're saluting the Super Bowl team on its 30th anniversary. Saturday, special broadcast about the people and the places that made that Charger season so successful. And then Sunday, you get to view the highlight of what I worked on and with NFL Films on the Chargers road to the Super Bowl. So I hope you'll enjoy it. This podcast brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. You got projects, they got materials. These can be the people you work with. Just go to DIXIELINELumber.com and just check out all the things they have to offer. I'm going to send you a memo, a corporate memo with a logo on it that you should dress better.
Okay. Hey, hopefully when we get back together on Monday, Roki Sasaki will have signed with somebody, hopefully San Diego Padres.
And Monday, we're going to be recapping NFL playoff games. And Monday, we will preview the Ohio State against the Fighting Irish at Notre Dame. So we got a lot to get done. Hey, thanks for joining us. Thank you for participating. Hope you'll tell all your friends who we are and what we're doing. And we think you will enjoy what we're doing with a special Football Friday broadcast on YouTube, the Saturday broadcast as it relates to the Chargers, and then the NFL Films documentary I worked on Sunday, Chargers Road to the Super Bowl. On behalf of John Riley, thanks for being part of this podcast. Have yourself a great sports weekend on Hacksaw's Headlines.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast app. For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.